Father, as we speak today, minister to all those whom you need to minister specifically to. Let the message reach everyone and touch everyone. Let them all receive it as they need to hear it. Because we know, Lord, that by your special grace, that every message has a special and different meaning to those listening. And we ask you that today, our message and our lessons will impact everyone here the way it's supposed to. We ask you, Lord, to watch over us as we listen and let us not have any technical issues today. We ask it through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hello guys, hello guys, hello guys. I'm so excited to be here. I've been saying it, and that's because I really am excited. Yes, amen, amen, amen. So we dive back into it. Today we're in week 4. And we're talking about effective communication in parenting. I have 2 lips, and I'm talking, therefore I'm communicating. Are you sure? Are you sure that's all it takes to communicate? Why is it that when you are talking to your kids, they're not responding? Why is it that it seems like despite everything, you and your spouse are not on, or your parenting partner are not on the same page? Well, we'll find out today. We have come to the week 4 out of 6. Please, can we give ourselves a round of applause? You can unmute your mics for just 1 minute and let's just give ourselves a round of applause.
Yay!
Whoa!
Yes.
Yay!
So we have done 66.6% of this program. Thank you for everyone who's been here. Who's been here since from week 1 to week 4? Please show us in the chat. Let's see. If you've been here from week 1 to week 4, let's know our MVPs. Yes, come on. I see. Really? Come on. It's your second time, but have you watched the recordings? Have you received the recordings for the previous ones? If you haven't, reach out to us after this program and you'll get it all. Oh, nice. I like to see that a lot of people have been here all through, and I thank you so much. I thank you. So we're in week 6, and we'll dive right in. If you have been here, or even if you're new, just for the new ones, I'll quickly go through my bio. My name is Ife Okafor. I'm the convener of the Godly Parenting Summit. I'm a wife and a mom of 4 amazing children. I'm a parenting strategist. So basically, we coach with you, we strategize with you to help you raise wholesome and godly families. I'm also the co-founder of Digital Parenting School, a platform that helps children and guardians with knowledge, skills, and tools that they need to become comfortable in this digital world. There's a lot to know out there, and we need to know that parenting extends from the physical into the digital, and so some of us are doing something about that. I'm a certified management consultant as well as a certified IT professional. I'm an author of a book called Parenting with the Father. It's available on Amazon. You can also check on my platforms on Instagram, on Facebook. If you check my link there, you'll be able to buy it. And I love mentoring youth in my spare time. I also enjoy reading, dancing, and gardening. And this week, we have the formidable Efe Ogundowale. She is a life and wellness coach with a degree in business administration. Over the years, she's had roles within customer experience, telecommunications, banking, and she has lived and traveled across 5 continents. God, when will I live and travel across 5 continents? So she's bringing her communication skills from across 5 continents. So please, if you are doubting us in this summit before, we always come correct. Open your ears, because you won't get this kind of information for free. And this has availed her with the opportunity to equip herself with essential skills and training to assist others in achieving their potential. Currently, she's the head of skills and learning and development at the Get Funded Africa team. Wonder. She's a catechist. Okay. So if you don't know what catechist means, for us Catholics, that means she teaches in church. So she teaches people about catechism, principles of the church. So this is someone that knows what she's talking about in the godly manner too. And she sits on the executive team of various parenting groups. Like really, Effie, at this point, I think I'm already intimidated. I should stop. But anyway, since it's all out there, I'll continue. She seeks to impact others in a positive manner always, and is passionate about the power of communication and its importance in work-life balance. To quote her, becoming a life coach has led me to a path of self-awareness and discovering again how amazing humans are. I learn more each day that we can achieve and accomplish a lot when we believe in ourselves and others. Living and interacting with people from diverse backgrounds led me to discover that generally we all have the same basic needs and mostly have same ideologies. If we communicate effectively, we will work together seamlessly. Now that's a beautiful quote. I love it. And finally, she says, I'm also a daughter, sibling, wife, and mama to two amazing souls, and she's a friend and your coach. Please, can we have some beautiful emojis in the chat box? If you are eager to meet this amazing person, can we have some emojis in the chat box, please? Efe, I guess now is the time to hear from you.
Hi, Ify. You know, sometimes it's good to hear people read out the things that you write and you ask yourself again, are you sure? Is it me people are talking about or somebody else? Because you know that thing called imposter syndrome, it comes up so many times.
Yeah.
And you remind yourself sometimes that actually, I'm somebody, somewhere on this big,
right.
wide world.
Yeah, not to interrupt. Ibuku Awoshika says that you should have a brag sheet. So we have where you just keep track of all the things you do. And so that once in a while, you just look at that sheet and you just raise your shoulder, you know, and say, Charlie, I'm somebody, Sha. I've done some things. So yes, it is good to have your bio read once in a while.
It is. Thank you so much. But also thank you for letting me be a big part of this. I'm super excited from day one. I mean, I'm also a big fan of Ify. She does a lot. And when you see all these things, like you see her and very unassuming, you're like, this is the same person. So don't worry, those 5 traveling, like, don't worry, that one is coming, it's coming. You know, it's in the plans. We've spoken about those things. So no shaking. No shaking at all. People think that now I'm one jet. It's not like that too. It's just life that has happened to help me move around. But we're thankful. We're grateful.
Why are you letting imposter syndrome come up again now?
At all, never.
Yeah.
In fact,
on your 5 continents, you have a lot to say. You have experience.
Collect. But thank you, everyone, and I'm grateful to have everyone here. What's the weather like in Lagos? It's child. We can hear clearly. Can everybody hear me? I think I can.
We can hear you.
If you can hear her, can you say yes, yes? Efe, I forgot to mention, Efe is reaching out to us all the way from Ghana. So yes, we're international today.
I can hear you, man. It's good to have you.
Thank you, everyone.
Great.
Thank you. So let's go into the topic of today. I was quite glad when Ifeanyi started and she was like, do you think because you have 2 lips, you can communicate? And it's funny because I think the first time I went for my first real job and I sat in the interview and I said, it was customer service. And I said, I like to talk. I like people. I'm a people person. And the first thing I can remember the then group head said to me was like, do you think because you have the gift of the gab, you can just, it means that you can communicate and you can, and it's always stuck with me since then. And I think it's also one of the things that led me to try and delve deeper into learning about humans. So, when we speak about the family unit, I always say that it's the smallest unit of every single relationship in the world. It's where you get your first introduction into relationships with people, from your siblings, from your parents, from, anyone, but that's the first time you meet people. You are born into this family, you didn't choose. And sometimes you have to learn to get along with everybody. Like some people will tell you things like, when you get older, you have the chance to meet other people and they get closer to you than even family. I think yesterday I saw something really interesting, which said, first of all, do you realize that you love your parents because they're your parents? You love your siblings because they're your siblings. And then you also love, you love your children because, you breed them. But the one person that you love from nowhere else, you don't know the person and you have to get to know the person, is your spouse, which is very important because that's the one person that you actually have no blood relation with, that you actually love. And it's the foundation of what you build upon. So when I saw that yesterday, it really struck me. I was like, when you think about these things, you learn more about it. So I think we took a bit of time. I was going to start with, I like to get us centered. I was going to start with an exercise to get everybody in, which would have done like a breathing exercise and checking how you're sitting and your posture. So if we can all take a minute, I want us to try wherever you are. I know you might be sitting or lying down, but if you're somewhere comfortable, I'd like you to sit up straight. And if you can, just close your eyes for a minute. Put your hands on your thighs. Just place them next to you or just try and sit, comfortably with your back. You can feel what you're sitting on. And if we close our eyes, I want you to imagine you are in a place where you feel peace, where you're at your peaceful, just imagine it might be on a beach, it might be somewhere where you feel peace, where you think you're in your happy moment, you can think. And I want you to try and listen out. Listen to the sound you can hear farthest away. Just try and listen to what you can hear farthest away from you. Take a minute to try within your vicinity. Feel the essence of, if you're on a bed or a chair, try and feel what you are sitting on. And take a moment to think maybe into like the future when you have things the way you want them to be. And then come back slowly and try and listen to the sound of what is closest to you that you can hear. Truly use your senses to feel what you can hear closest to you. Then take a few deep breaths. Breathe in all the way from your tummy. I want you to take it in. And then when you inhale all the way, fill your lungs. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then exhale and come back. When you feel centered and focused, open your eyes and then we'll start.
I love this one. I'm definitely borrowing it.
Feel free. It's always good because sometimes I personally know I don't breathe properly. I just go through the day. And sometimes I have to intentionally stop and breathe in and out. And it's so helpful. It actually does back.
How
So,
many of us love that? Let's hear it in the chat. How many of us love that? I see some people are still breathing. I think they're enjoying it so much. They're not even back yet.
Please come back.
Nice.
Please come back
so
we can.
Thank you, Juliet. Thank you, OPPO. Nice.
Okay.
Abiodun, thank you, Kiru. All right. So we're centered and ready to go.
You held it till 10. Very good lungs. Well done.
Good.
Chinaya, well done. Okay. So let's go into communication. Usually when I start, I always start with a story that I feel about communication. Like I'm the last of 8 children. I mean, it's a polygamous home, so we got 4, but I'm the last of 8 children. And I realized when I was small, because I was probably the cutest child, yes, I'm claiming that too, I always got sent. Like when my siblings wanted anything they knew they wouldn't get, they would send me. And more often than not, I would get it from my parents. And I was there thinking, why? And then I realized, well, they probably think that because I'm the youngest, I don't have any issues, or I don't want it for any reason that is negative, because they'll be like, this one is small, she can't do anything. So if I would say we want to go out, we need the driver, straight, I'll get it. And then as I grew older, like when we were in high school, Ife and I went to high school together, I remember that I like those kind of things. So we're both prefect. Ife was the prefect as well. So I would know that when I wanted things, I was always the one that could talk to any teacher without getting into trouble. Even though I had my little things, I wasn't perfect. But then when I would get those favors, I would share with my friends that are naughty. So both sides, the friends would like you, the teachers would like you. What's there not to like? And it was all a form of saying, hey, it got to a point where when I wanted to make friends, I would sit back and I would think, okay, how do I talk to this person? And I'll find common ground. I'll go to somebody like if maybe we went to primary school together, so I know she's Catholic. And if I say something like that to her, obviously I know that she's going to be interested. Or if I go to somebody who likes to dance or likes music, then with all the Bone Thugs harmony or whatever, and you say, oh, I know this song, immediately you capture the person's attention. So little things, even with the seniors, somebody who wanted something or the other, you find out that if you just stop to think really well and then, go on to the person, you'll be able to get some form of rapport. And that's what we're about, building something that both of you can sort of like, get along. So what is communication? I think we have a slide on that. So basically, if you go into the meanings of the dictionary meanings or wiki meanings, you hear that communication is, is fundamental to the existence of humans, but it is a process sharing, creating information, views, facts, and feelings, putting all those things together, like I just mentioned. You know, you go to somebody, you give them an idea, you talk to them, blah, blah, blah. You want to reach a common understanding, which is the basic reason for communicating. You don't just go and just start talking without a meaning. I say this all the time. Think before you speak. You can't just go and just start talking or blabbing. People will think something is obviously wrong with you, but you have to understand there must be a reason, right? So that's what communication is. And it is the way we build relationships in any sphere of life. But when you're communicating, the effectiveness of communication, it is judged by the response that it gets. If I'm communicating and there's no response at the other end, or there's no form of understanding, then I haven't really communicated. If the person I'm trying to tell whatever it is I'm trying to say doesn't really understand, there's no clarity, then I haven't really communicated. I have spoken, I might have acted, I might have done something, but if there's no response, then what I'm trying to do is probably non-conform. There's nothing there. Okay, so usually if you think about it, I always say that what happens after you have communicated with someone? Did you give somebody an order or did you ask them to do something? What happens after? So everybody's perspective is unique. If I say something to you, you might take it a different, and in fact, I can say the same thing to 4 people. I keep on saying that in a family, we're all, like if you live and grow with your siblings, but everybody turns out different. If you're women or men, everybody will marry somebody totally different. You probably can't marry the person your sister has married or your brother. It's not possible because you probably can't. You get along because you are in-laws, you all get along. But what was the difference in the fact that you were all raised the same way? And that has always been another thought that came to me. How are we all raised by the same person? But even what we deem to be right or wrong sometimes is different. Because when your parent is talking to you, or talking to all 5 of you, or all 6 of you, you all take something different from that conversation. We can come here today now and say, the best color in the world is brown, but you will pick, in fact, when I see wedding invitations in Nigeria, you'll see, it just said poo brown,
onion color,
mahogany brown, and somebody else will see burnt orange as brown, but we all have a different perspective because it's something in our subconscious or our conscious, whichever way, but I think our subconscious works stronger than our conscious mind. That sort of tells you where you are going to based on certain things. We'll get there in a bit, right? So one thing we take from that is that don't assume. If you come in and tell everybody wear brown, I'm very sure everybody will come with at least a different shade. Maybe you have like 10 different shades of brown. So you can't assume that people should know what you expect of them and do it the way you want it to be done. People do things differently. We're all built differently. So we'll definitely always do things in a different way. But one thing that rules us and which causes a bit of, scarring is that you already assume that because I've said brown, everybody should come in that brown, So communication usually begins in our thoughts. And this is something that now becomes a belief. We say things like when you let out something into the world a lot of times, before you know, it's like when you think about somebody and then suddenly the person calls you. I don't know if it happens to people, but sometimes you haven't spoken to somebody, but you're thinking about them. And then all of a sudden, somewhere, somehow, the person either reaches out or, something. But that just shows you how we're all spiritual beings. I believe that there's always something somewhere, So it's like, be careful when you are talking to people. I always tell people that if you point a finger, another point of communication, when you're pointing at people, remember that the other 3 or 4 are pointing at you. So there are so many things that are intertwined in communication, right? Communication starts with us. And I believe that whenever you're trying to communicate, you should think deeply about what you are trying to do or what you want to achieve out of that situation before you go into it or you say what you want to say. I think I say it a lot to my kids at home. I'm always like, did you think before you said what you want to say? Think really about it. Are you sure that's what you want? Because what do you want to achieve out of that thought? What do you want to happen before you finish saying that statement and then you go back and you're like, oh, that was not what really I meant. What do you mean? So we should say what we mean when we're communicating. Think about it. What is the response that you want out of this whole thing that you're saying? And sometimes we don't do that with our spouses, with our family, with your children. You speak sometimes from a place of, a lot of times it's not actually what you want, but it's something else that is fueling what you say. So Communication is not just about how we speak, it's our body language, it's our expressions. There's energy. There's a way you talk that the energy is understood, and there's a way you come back to it. Okay, if you can move on to the next slide.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I had tapped it accidentally.
It's okay. So the importance of communication. I think as humans, communication starts right from before you're even born. I think it was when Sister Chinelo was talking, and I remember her saying that, or somebody spoke about it, one of the previous ones, about how when you were playing music or something, I can't remember, I think it was an experiment, about how you, even from birth, as in before you are born. And I remember, because with my pregnancies, I remember a very wise old woman, my mother-in-law to be exact, told me that, be careful about how you feel and the kind of emotions you express when you're carrying your kids. And she did it. She was like, if you are irritable all the time or things like that, you pass it on, even while the child is still with you before you come out. And I made it just effort to try to be happy. And I think it shows, because sometimes I see my kids and I'm like, okay, I remember, when you have a difficult pregnancy, it's not that easy, but just remind yourself that deep down inside, those emotions, try to manage them so that you are passing on the right genes and genetics into your child. DNA is very strong, right?
Oh, yeah.
And another thing, it's there forever. And another thing I remember as well quite clearly is that when the babies come and we fret a lot, and then you're like, oh, what's happening? Or maybe the baby's crying. And she kept saying to me something that I keep as well, that they don't know how to express themselves. Like, they're small, but definitely if they're crying, then there's something that is fueling that. So you need to sort of become a detective. Another thing that we are as parents, you have to now become a detective as a mother. You have to find out, okay, was it that, the child is crying, then you check there's no poop, the child is clean, you've checked they've eaten, you've checked you have to now begin to eliminate everything to find out the answer, which can be difficult, but it takes a lot of patience. It's another thing we need to bring to bear, that even when communicating, you have to be patient with the children. So you have to know, okay, this child is acting a certain way, but what is the cause? We just don't take it that the child is angry or the child is badly behaved. Or some people say, oh, my child is just a terrible baby, he cries all the time. There must be something behind it. Why does that child cry? What is making them cry? Is it when somebody's around them? Is it when, they're hungry? Is it when, even like, I've been loving all the chats that come up during the week. You learn a lot of things. People ask, oh, this child does this all the time, but why? And then you have all the answers come up. First and foremost, I love to hear people's answers, but when you are the one facing the thing, you need to realize that a lot of times your gut instincts above everything else, as a mother especially, is never really wrong. Because most of everything starts deep from within. When we say your gut feeling, it's not just a saying, it's something that is real. And that's something I learned during some of my NLP classes, which is what I'm going to share as well. So when importance of communication, you get to know or understand each other. So understand the people, understand your family members, understand your children, understand your spouse, even your in-laws. There's nothing that cannot be communicated properly once you understand the next person. It takes a lot, but if you just sort of like calm down and watch people, watch the way they act. Like they say, the way somebody acts is much stronger than anything they say. It eliminates assumptions and negativity. And assumptions and negativity are part of the problem, like I mentioned before. I say to people sometimes when it comes to, like, when you are so used to somebody, sibling, and especially our spouse, it's like saying that your spouse likes to go out every day. So before the person comes home, you've already assumed that they've gone somewhere. Perhaps they've even gone to do something for you or something has happened. But that assumption already is fueling the anger, because they have been waiting since, okay, 1 hour has gone, 2 hours, this person is not back. I'm sure he has gone to that place again. I'm sure he has. And you are personally, you are doing this thing to yourself. You are the one that's building up this whole annoyance. And by the time the person comes in, without even really waiting to hear anything, you are waiting to just pour it out, because you have raised up so much that the thing is willing to spill out. And it's causing problem. And sometimes, depending on the kind of person on the receiving end, they won't even say anything. And that just now leads to more problems. You see how one simple thing, if you had waited and simply asked, even if you were right, but you had been patient enough to ask, it might have, the turn of events. So like when you wake up in the morning, I say to my kids a lot, if I don't wake up early, then I get a bit anxious. And that anxiety passes on to everybody else around you. And that's how your day usually will go. So sometimes just assuming and just bringing in that negativity, right? Also, communication is important because it reduces influences from outside. Like we're saying, sometimes if you don't speak to the people around you, you don't talk to them, you don't share, they would always get it from somewhere else. If you're not communicating the right thing, then they're going to ask, why can't I get it from here? I have to get it from somewhere else. How else do we learn? We will learn. And today, more than ever, after our digital parenting class last week, we know there are many, many places to get the information from. So
yes, there are.
There's such a lot to get from outside that, you have to. So you can go to the next slide. Now, I was looking and I said, yes, I would find. And even the Bible, what the Bible says about communication, we've got lots. If you speak to people in words they don't understand, how will they know what you are saying? You might as well be talking into empty space. Very deep. You are speaking, as we said, and they don't understand. If there's a lack of understanding, even when the Pentecost is coming, when the spirits came and they spoke in languages, there was understanding. Because if there was no understanding, people would have left even worse off than we started. There has to be understanding. Like when we say, even wherever you go, you hear prophecies and all, somebody needs to break it down. That communication needs to happen. Because like we say, when you dream sometimes and you wake up and you're like, what did that dream mean? I've had this, I've had that. And sometimes you speak to people who actually understand. And even if you opened your Bible and you thought about it deeply, I'm sure you will get an answer. The whole point of communication is understanding on the other end. I love this one too. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. We speak of affirmations. I think when we think of new age language, it was there before from way back, but we've just not, delved long enough to understand what it means. Sometimes when we speak and how people speak, you can go somewhere and just generally the same thing you will have said, but you hear it in a different way. And some people even always make things negative. Last week, I heard one new one, and the person said, for every new level, there's a new devil. And some people laughed. I'm like, oh, I like that. And then I was like, I don't understand. For every new level,
I focusing on the levels?
I don't understand. I'm like, wouldn't you have said something more like, for every new level, there's some form of,
there's a new challenge. There's a new learning curve.
There's a new level to explore. There's a new, things like that. So sometimes, we just speak and then we don't think. And I thought to myself, well, if we want to take the negative part, you can always reframe it. Reframing is another very important thing. I think I'll talk about it later on. Then number 3, let your speech always be with gracious charm, seasoned with the salt of wit, so that you would know the right answer to give in every case. Bam. When we are
so powerful.
Let your speech always be with gracious charm. If you don't have anything nice or anything good to say, don't say. Think about it well. Ask for the spirit of wisdom. This is very, very important in families. I hear that a lot. Like I'm saying, you are going to quarrel with somebody for what? Think about it. You can put your point across and it will be well felt if you just say the right words. One of the things we learned about that I'll share here that I think is important. When we want to do things or we want to ask, the word why is such a fire starter that people don't understand. If you come up to me and you're like, why did you do that? You've already brought up something that means, are you challenging me? Why is like a challenger. And I've learned to say, instead of saying why, I can come up to you simply and say, oh, what was the reason that happened? Do you know? Or do you know why, But when you just come up and this why, every time, why? I think my son is somewhere around here. One of his favorite words. You ask something and he says, why? And I'm like, so learning how to speak, let your speech come out the right way and you will get what you want. Sometimes people say, well, how do you get things? I'm like, because you ask. Even God said, ask for anything that you want and you will get.
With gracious charm.
With gracious
That's
charm.
the one I'm going to be deploying. Gracious charm.
Graciousness never.
Did he say just being gracious? Or did he say just be charming? Or gracious and charming?
Fuse it together. And especially because we're talking about family, I went and I checked this one and it says, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. We hear it from here. This whole family dynamics has been from the beginning. And when we speak about you want your children to honor you, remember that you should honor yours. We speak about communication. People see and they act on what they see more than what they hear. When it comes to a lot of times in family, especially with the in-laws and all, it's so important because I ask people that when you have that issue, where did you start from? How did you start that relationship? Because if you started it properly, if you give the right respect to your in-laws or anybody else, even if they don't like you, there's that something for respect is reciprocal. How do you communicate with them? Because I keep saying to people that when you marry, unfortunately or fortunately, nobody's an island. So when you go into any relationship, you know that there are people that surround, even if it's not the in-laws, there's always somebody else, even if it's the friends of the people. Most of us here, if you're married, even with your children, the friends they make, by force, you become friends with those families. Because you need to know what's going on. So they watch you. How do you communicate? What is the relationship you have with your friends? What's the relationship you have with your people? How do you communicate generally? Because any relationship is communication. So I find it, how do you communicate with the person who is with you, your husband, your wife? How do you communicate with them? So there's lots more, but I found that a lot of the communication passages are in Proverbs. And that's a very, very powerful. In terms of life and living till today, when you go through Proverbs and you read them, there's so much wisdom. So much wisdom that you take and you think about it. When you stew over it, it will give you answers. Okay.
Very, very true. I love Proverbs a lot. A lot of my favorite verses come from Proverbs. Yeah, that's something what's, sitting with.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that when you look at it, it was all born from a place of, there were always a challenge. It was King David, a lot of the challenges that he faced in Psalms, and he will go back and he will say, look, it's amazing how I always use David as an example, because I say we're all sinners, we're all imperfect. If anything was more, and God still chose so many imperfect. In fact, most of the people that he chose were not perfect. So when we're being hard on our sometimes, I keep saying, just remember that we're not looking for a perfect person. It's not at all. We are perfect, and you have no need for any help. You don't need anything. You've got it all down. So stay in your lane. Those of us that are still trying,
let's keep trying with our God.
So here I'm going to get a bit technical because I wanted to share some things that I thought were important. I said to Ife, and I'll start with the first one. So self-awareness is so key. Self-awareness. What does self-awareness mean? Digging deep within yourself. Who are you as a person? For you to communicate, you have to know who you are. What are your, how do you feel at certain times? Like some people will tell you, oh, I'm not a morning person. Oh, I'm not a, but have you checked? Why are you not a morning person? When you wake up, is there something that gets to you? Is it that you don't sleep well enough? Is that what exactly is the issue that makes you that way? We can't take away from being self-aware, because once you know yourself, nobody can tell you anything. Even when it comes to the way you look, when you can know yourself and you can accept those things about yourself, if you need change, it comes from that angle, because you have been able to understand what really makes you tick. And it's not that difficult, really. Nowadays, we're so into keeping a journal, writing down your thoughts. Even if you don't want to write, you can even just put things. Even if you go through your phone with all the pictures and see the moments when you're happiest, see the moments when you're sad, see the people. Sometimes you have to do self-check awareness. Like we say, even people around you. There was something I learned about. If you have different kinds of friends, there's some friends that suck the energy out of you. When they are coming, you love them. But when they are coming, you know that I have to go on my way to make them comfortable. You're already stressed. You like them for some reason, maybe the company they keep. It's the same thing, even with your kids. There's certain times where you realize that you have to look within. What are the times when I get most frustrated? What is the action that makes me feel that way, and why? So when you sit down and dig deep to understand who you really are, your character, your feelings, and it's not about, it's yourself giving yourself your own self-checks. Give yourself feedback. You can ask other people as well. Don't feel bad. When you get criticism sometimes,
bring your own, let me see.
You feel
don't worry, chicken.
Sorry. It's all right. It happens.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's technology. And you know what is moving you, what's your character, what motivates you. That even helps you know the people around you, how you relate with them. So once you can increase your self-awareness and you understand your true personality, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know your values, your thoughts. Somebody has a question. Was that a hand up I saw? Not sure.
Yes, I saw a hand up.
Or was there an error?
If you have a question, please put it in the chat box. We'll take questions at the end, but please put your questions in the chat box as we go along so that we can take note of them and we'll start to answer them once we're done.
Okay, so once you're able to know those things, you are preparing yourself on the way to being a fantastic communicator, because when you know the kind of things that will tick you off at the wrong time or at the right time, then it's easier for you to work with people. I always say that, you know, sometimes people say, oh, how come you get along? I said, I don't necessarily get along with everybody, but what I've realized is that knowing who I am and knowing who a person is makes it easier for you to do what needs to be done. So even if at home, you know that people, we can't all be the same. We see all those funny memes and co about how one person is very untidy and one person is tidy. Knowing yourself and knowing what will make tidy, you can decide, like you said, when it comes to a lot of, like, we hear stories of people like in-laws and co. If you choose that from the beginning, you start tidying up for the person, that thing is going to go on forever. You can't wake up one day and say, I'm not doing it anymore, because then it's going to cause a very big rift. So it's either you learn to live with it or learn how to draw the person out. Okay, how can we get better at it? Maybe together. Do you have that patience, or do you know how have to now work on your own patience levels to be able to help the other person? Like somebody said, when you're on the plane, they tell you, put your mask on before you put the one for the child. So help yourself first. Know your strengths, know the length you can go before you then bring somebody else in.
And I think that you can also train your children to understand your sweet spots. Because, like, for me, my kids know that when I get back, unless it's critical, it's best to give me like 30 minutes to just wind down from traffic and all that, you know. And I noticed that some of my kids better read me, so they know when to come, you know, and get what they want. So with kids, it's the same thing. If you know yourself, then you know how to tell your children, oh, mommy just needs about 15 minutes to reboot, and then I'll get to you, as opposed to just lashing out, you know, as opposed to you're always reacting instead of taking control of yourself and passing that on to how the children would also interface with you.
Fantastic, 100%. And I say that even here, I say it sometimes when they come to me and they're asking for something, and I'm like, do you really think this is the best time to ask for that? Like, do you know that if you had asked me, when do you think would have been the best time to come with this request? You know, and I'm like, you know that already. So you know that you can even read the room. I say to people, like we say, even in an office, read the room. When you want to ask for something, there should be an appropriate time. Do you think this would be a good time to come with this request, or maybe later? So when you begin to tell them, they begin to understand. So sometimes they won't say, well, like, baby, that very funny video of the boy who kept on saying, mommy, calm down. Mommy, calm down. Calm down before we go into it, because he knows, okay, I've seen this, you know, and I know what will happen. It's like when you see the kids and then you see how people come around and they're like, oh, because they're so used to it that, you know, they're ready for it. So they know that, okay, have I done something, you know, warrant that or something else? You know what I mean? So it's important. Self-awareness is one of the biggest things that we can do for yourself. And if it means taking time, if it means, you know, documenting those things till you actually understand how you feel. And, you know, when you start doing that, even people around you begin to understand, like, it's both ways. I've understood myself. So it would help, you know, to help the next person do the same. So how do you communicate with your larger family, your parents, your siblings, your in-laws, your spouse, your partner? What makes you, you know, what makes you like the person, or what makes you, you know, what are the things that you don't like? Write it down, begin to think about it. And then if you want to make those changes, you start from that point. I've now understood why this happens, or why, because when you even understand yourself, it helps you understand others. Begin to learn their own, okay, when they come back around this time, like Ify said, with her kids, when they start realizing that, okay, mommy comes this time, maybe this is not the best time for me to do this, and then they also adjust. Everything is adjusting. Every relationship some form of adjustment. I know people say, oh, don't do what you can't do, but I don't think any human being is perfect. And in that way, we have to learn to see how we can all work together, because I think we all have the same. When I said it before about ideologies, I think from living in different places and I met people from different cultures, but when we talk about the same things, be it spouse, be it children, we all kind of like have the same issues. And I'm like, okay, you know, God created us all, so we all have things in common, but then how do we make it work? So that's our self-awareness. Let's skip to the next.
Okay, so next is questions about self-awareness.
Interesting. So if we all have, I don't know, it might be your phone or something else. I wanted us to take those questions. They're deep questions that help you actually dig deeper into yourself. I have said the first one I always ask people is that when we speak about values, and that word is bandied so much, like, oh, what are your values? Oh, she says audio is quite low. Can you hear me?
If you guys can hear her, please, can you say yes in the chat box so that we know whether we need to adjust? If you feel she should go louder, let us know.
Yes. Okay. So it's not low, or is that, I don't know. I'm wondering what the answer is.
No, I guess they can hear her properly because they can hear you properly.
Okay.
You know, because asked if they should say if there was any need,
Oh, okay. It was Juliet said no audio, and then I think somebody said check your connectivity, but then Catherine said it's quite low. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll try and talk a bit louder. So when we speak about values, I think it's quite important to know what your values are. And what is a value? I always say to people that a value is something that is non-negotiable. It's something that you have that, because when you go for interviews or a lot of people will hear things like your value might be, integrity or honesty. And then I ask them a question. I say, if integrity is a thing and you have a very close friend who has probably done something that's unthinkable, would you go and report them to the police? And always ask that. So when we're asking what your values are, and then people look at me and they're like, it depends. I'm like, really? I'm like, you think you would get up and say, so when we speak those things, I know that there are different scenarios and there are exceptions, but what is most important to you? What value do you think is most important to you? You can write it down. If you want to share, you can share with us later, but write it down somewhere, not in the chat.
Let's know your most important values in the chat room. That's why we keep talking. Let's see what people's values are. Let's see.
And then
for me, I'll go first. My values. So my values are entrenched in our family motto. We have love of God, love of family, and diligence, and in that order. So even at work, I have how did I forget? I think Corinthians 13. Oh, I've forgotten that verse. It's one of my favorites too. Work as unto the Lord. You know, so I have it facing my desk every day so that when I'm working, I'm remembering that it's about God and it's about diligence. So what are your value systems? Can you guys hear us?
I love the fact that you just said, when I say I learned from Ife Nwala, she said we have a family motto. Charlie, there are certain things that we are all going to be taken away from here. As in, like, is that written in the front of the house? When I come visit the house and I'll see it there, I'll be like, yes. So I love that.
Yeah, actually, in fact, you won't see it now, but even up to just after COVID, we all had picture frames in every bedroom and in the living room. So it was our picture, and then it was the family motto was engraved, so that when you wake up, you are seeing that, and your brain is, resetting. Like that's what we're all about.
I love that.
But the frames are weak now, so hopefully this summer we'll get them done again.
Oh, love it. So what is most important to you, the value? I see some coming up in the chat box. But
integrity, transparency, love of God, honesty, authenticity. Can we test those values? We're not going to do the test here, but ask yourself those questions. Because you see, the thing about value system is they're not just words. They are your core. They're the deal breakers. So the question is, like I said, if you find yourself, if integrity is your value system, you find yourself in a place where somebody dear to you has compromised their integrity and they want to make you part of it, will you do that?
That's the question I asked. we always say that, like people say family, bonding and unity, future, love of God, integrity. See, integrity almost always comes up. I don't know how many times I see the word integrity, and I always ask people, do you really know what integrity means? Like when you use the word, don't use it lightly. Because if you're somewhere, you have to go to prison for something because you have been, you said the truth and all. Can you do that? So there's so much of this that keeps coming up, and I'm always like, okay, let's learn to know what exactly it is that we stand for. But that aside, I think it's something worth thinking about.
Yeah,
and then
for me,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, for me, what I know my children know me for, it's something I always say to them. My yes is my yes. So I don't make promises I don't intend to keep. I don't say I promise unless I'm going to move heaven and earth to keep that promise. So instead, I'll say I try. So it's in the little things.
It is.
Little things.
And it's somewhere to start from. The important thing is if you have it as a value and maybe you don't know how much. That's why I said we need to be self-aware. Check yourself. When you write it down, what does it really mean to you as that you are today? We've thought about it before, but what does it mean to you? And how do you think if you were outside, you can stand? And most important as a family, can your children say, truly, this is how I feel, or this is what I think about my mom. My mom is this kind of person. She would always do this, or my dad, this is what I feel. Because I know I grew up with something. I mean, we're not perfect, and our parents have their other flaws. But one thing my father still says, and he always says, is that a good name is better than gold. And everywhere he works, till dates, nobody can come up to you and say something otherwise. And I think I took that with me. It was communicated very clearly. It wasn't just a case of he used to say it lightly. Even other things, like he will say to you, look, if you're going somewhere, as you're young, you will say, oh, I'm going here. Or maybe a friend will say, oh, let's go to this other place and quickly come back. And if you got caught, and he'll say to you that, why would you have said to me, you are going here? But when I'm looking for you at point B, I still remember it quite clearly. And he would go on to explain that, especially then when we didn't have cell phones or anything, he would say, if anything happened to you, no one is going to know. You told me you were here, and I've told everybody that I was here. It's also a matter of trust. And I think I was saying that yesterday to people that, especially as we have our kids and they're growing, it's important for them to know the reason why. Did you understand why that happened? Like I said before, if you don't understand what's happening. Like if you had told me and you didn't really, because at first, I was like, what's this? We're here, I was there. Like, so what's the difference? I was like, maybe you're in one house and you're at number 10. And then all of a sudden you're at number 15. I'm like, what's the big deal? It's just the same. We're not far away from each other. But then when he explained it one, and it got really deep, especially in this day where people get missing, people get lost, and you had said to yourself, I was going to be here, and then all of a sudden you've ended up there. Anything could have happened to you in that whole, period of 5 or 10 minutes that you followed somebody to pick something. So if you have to go even now, actually now it's easier. You have a phone to tell me, oh, mommy, daddy, I have to go somewhere because somebody asked me, can I go here? Or can I go to the other place? So it's important to keep those things. And those are the things, as I said, when you remember and you think about them, can your children say, oh, their words there? Yes, so whatever he said. He said that's what's most important, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing was these other questions, I think are important, like who or what has been a great influence in your life and led you to who you are today? I think there was a similar question last week when he said, who was it when you think about what you were taught or your parents? Is it based on their, would you say it's based on their
their behavior or what they said?
They said to you. But when you also ask people, like I've seen people say things like, oh, Oprah is my role model and things like that. And I said, what do you know about Oprah? Apart from seeing her and thinking that she's opened a school in South Africa. I'm like, do you know how she lives and what her life is like? We see what she shows us, but would you want to be like living that life? Because sometimes I know with Oprah, you hear a lot, she advises people who are married and all, but then you go to her, she had a partner, she's never been married. So
she's never been married and she doesn't plan to.
Exactly. So when you say, oh, this is the person who you admire the most in the world, she doesn't have children, she doesn't want them, you need to find out why they pick those things before you suddenly pick that person as a role model, because it's important to know the people that you look up to. More and more, thanks to social media, we're seeing things where people that we thought were a certain way, then you hear the whole story because they only show you what you want to know. Nowadays, you only hear or see what people want you to see. So you don't even know. So I think we'll be very careful about who you pick as the person you're looking up to, because it's important that you know what their values are, because that's what makes them who they are, right?
Mhm.
And then what is the impact you want to leave behind? It's a very deep question. Like when you've left, when you're not here, let's say you look at what is written about you, what do you think will be said with regards to that? What will people say about you? What is the thing that you'll say? Like me here saying, I mean, my dad is still alive, but there's so many things that I hear and I think about, and I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
I still have. And then what are you sowing into your children that you want them to reap in the world?
Sorry, okay, before we go into that one, this thing about the impact you want to leave behind, I want to just say just a very quick story about this impact. I mean, you said today that, oh, if you have done a lot of things and all that, and I'll tell you, what changed for me was attending. There are 3 women whose funerals I've attended. Coincidentally, they were women actually. And when I heard things that people said about them, I mean, I wasn't wishing that I was going to die, but it just sank and resonated with me that this is what I want when I'm gone. I want people to be able to speak about me with tears of joy at my funeral. That's I'm gone, but when they remember me, all they feel is love and joy, because yes, they're going to miss me, but the legacy I've left behind fills their heart, and coincidentally, those people passed on, sequentially, one year, the following year, and the third person was actually my mom when she passed in 2018. And I'll tell you that it changed the way I viewed certain things I was doing. I was now very much intentional because I'm writing my obituary by my life, if that makes sense. I'm very focused on, it might sound morbid, but the fact is we all have to confront the fact that we're leaving this earth one day, whether we like it or not. The question is, what would you want written on your obituary? What stories would you want people to say about you? That should now influence the way you speak with people, the little drops of grace that you leave besides when you're speaking with them, and most importantly, how you behave with your children, because they're the ones that you're going to be, they're the ones going to be follow up with your legacy. So I just wanted to put that out there, because that question, what impact do you want to leave behind? That was the one that really jumped out at me when I saw the slides before we started.
Fantastic. And do you know what? I can definitely say with what you're doing with the Parenting Summit speaks to what impact you want to give in the world. And that's what I'm trying to say, that, we sit here and like how we say, if your dream doesn't scare you, you can't go anywhere. When you sit down and I look at it, when you came and you said you were doing this, I was like, wow. I was actually wow, because it takes a whole lot. Even just the fact that you've given up 6 weeks of your time to give people this, to get people to understand and to make that change is very commendable. And that's what I speak about when I say, what is the impact you want to leave when you are gone? What people will know. As I sit here now, anytime I think about parenting or anything, I said this, I'll give another funny joke. I had, when we all talk about, like, you see another mom and yet, so a lot of times people are just talking and somebody was like, she's so lucky, she can do this, she can do that. And I said to her, well, for that lady, she's a career woman, right? So as she is today, she doesn't come, you don't see her at school every day, she doesn't come forth, probably not because she doesn't want to, but maybe she has decided that, like we say, even with a lot of single moms, right? Empathize sometimes and say, look, you want to send your child to this school or whatever, so you can't always be there because you have to work hard to do it. But when you see her and she's carrying her Gucci or Chanel or whatever it is, or she's living that life where she can go for a girl's trip, who chose that you want to be a good mom, you want to do this? Not that you're a bad mom, don't get me wrong, but you chose that this is it. So I said to her, your own prayer should be that all this training I'm impacting in my child, they will buy me my own too in the future. Simple. Pick your own. So I always say to people that look at what is happening around you, but appreciate what you have. It's that contentment at every single point.
Yeah. Don't
look at somebody else's life. They know what they're doing. They know why they're there. I found it interesting when you mentioned Ibuku. Sorry, I'm digressing. But when I had gone to one of her talks and I listened to her, and she says it outright, the reason why she can be where she is, there are so many points I noted from her. One, she's an all-boy woman. I think raising is quite different. Two, she made it very, very, very well known that her mother-in-law, even though they were not best of friends, was a huge support system for her. So she could do the things that she was doing. You know, the difference between that is she's telling you the truth. I say to people sometimes, when you follow somebody, like I said again, be sure of what that person does and how their life ties into yours. Spot the differences and spot what is aligned with you, so that you are able to say, I can do this or I can do that based on how that person has lived their life. It's very, very important. So, you know, when I listened to her, she said all those things, and then people come, I'm like, be careful. Oh. She has told you that even every year, she says 10 days she gives to her husband to go on a holiday alone. So this is somebody who has planned it. And you will wake up one day and say, okay, I'm going to be this. You can't do it. You have to know where you are. Be very self-aware of who you are, what you are. Ask yourself those questions, and then you then try.
Yeah. In fact, speaking of the same lady, she will tell you for free that, look, when her children, because the boys are out of home right now. I think one is in boarding house, the other is in university, if I recall. But even when they were younger, it was daddy that did all the school runs. So the thing is, you can't have your cake and eat it. There's nothing wrong with doing school runs, but you can't be doing school runs and also want to have pockets of time. I'm a 9-to-5 mom. I'm sure many of you don't realize that. I'm a 9-to-5 mom, but thank God for technology, because it allows me now to implement my passion. But part of the downside of that is that you won't see me in every single activity that is going on in my children's school. But my children know that when it counts, when it matters to them, I will show up. So for example, another thing that most of you might not have realized, I'm a 9-to-5 mom, but I was in my children's school every morning throughout last week. Every morning, I took time off work, I would go there, I would speak at the parenting forum, and then I would come back to work, and then I'll come home. So the thing is, be careful what you wish for, because you might get it and then you find out that your power no reach, you know? So we need to really look inwards, know what we can do, what are positive sides are, our strengths are, our weaknesses, and be okay with that and work with that.
Okay.
Sorry if I keep jumping in. It's just
Oh,
that I'm
it's fine. I
enjoying
love it. I love it because it's good when you have that whole interactiveness. It's fantastic. So the other thing is, what are you sowing into your children you want them to reap in the world? What are you teaching them that you know they would go on and then cause that ripple effect? And what qualities do you think your children admire about you? Because we speak a lot, but have you thought about it? What would they say if you had to ask your child now a question to say, break in transmission? Can you hear me? I'm not sure if that's from here.
Sorry, if you all can hear, can you say yes, yes?
Yes, yes.
Remember, it's raining in some parts of the world, so if you have breaking transmission, just quickly check your network. I find that sometimes I have to switch networks to be sure that I'm participating fully.
Okay. So what qualities would they say, you know, are most important to them? Like when they look at you, oh, my mom is like this or she's like that, just ask them. Sometimes we don't ask. We always just assume, you know. One day take time out and ask your child, what do you really think about me? Or what do you think is my greatest quality as a mom? You know, what kind of things? And then just do that. Okay, somebody said hard work. Yeah, you know, sometimes the other day somebody put up something and said that as well. And what was missing was there was no fun in their life. And she said to herself, oh boy, they've all looked at me and everything else. I'm not a fun parent. I don't do anything. So they just look at me as like, oh, mommy's just hard work. And they grew up sometimes taking that. That's what you're communicating to them, that life is so hard. You just have to work, work, work. There's no fun. We're not doing anything. And remember, they watch us. So they're taking these things. You will wonder when she grows up why she's somebody who wants to be with the person who only works hard. Or maybe the opposite of it, she just wants to marry a rich man so that she doesn't have to work hard. Or the opposite, she wants to marry a rich woman so he doesn't want to work hard. And then you are there and you're complaining and you're wondering what's going on.
She wants to be a go-getter in her career and focus on career and wants a one child, and then you're wondering why.
Or maybe when she's at one age and she's working so hard. And I have evidences of this with certain friends I've spoken to. When I realized why they were doing certain things, and I asked, and they said to me, when I was growing up, something very, very significant happened. And I promised myself that I would never be in that situation. So I would always, always, always work. And then it has to take a lot of breaking, you know, your mindset change to get them to be a bit different from that, because they are so stuck and scared. It's the fear. that has come out of it. So if your child thinks you're hardworking, explain to them. Get them to understand why you work so hard or what it is that they're doing. Sometimes in my house, they ask me, and I'm like, somebody has said, one of my children said to me, but how come you don't buy anything for yourself when we went somewhere? I said, because I'm buying for you, because I want you to have before I do. But it doesn't mean that sometimes when I'm eating something and they want to eat it, I'm like, please, I want to enjoy it. You've eaten your own. Let me to enjoy. I can eat. It's not every time that you must take.
Yes, so
you need to let them know at different times what goes on. So let's now go to some of the real principles I was going to share. It might be a bit, technical, but let's go in there and let's see how we can learn more about that. Yes. So literally, when it comes to communication, we all have our own unique brand of reality. The way we see things, and this all comes from, I don't know if anybody here is a psychologist, so you might be familiar with it. This is all NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And everything comes in through one of our senses. Our 5 senses are what? Your sense of sight, sense of smell, sense of taste, your sense of your feel, and your ears, what you hear, right? If you want to communicate, when we're communicating rather, and you want to influence people, you have to first of all understand, and I keep on saying that, it's a word I use, everybody's perspective is valid. There is no one who is thinking something. To them, it is right. And it took me a long time, but I got to learn that everybody thinks they're right. It's why sometimes you see, especially men who are very alpha-based, they always think they're right. And that's why a lot of times in families, you find a lot of, if care isn't taken, you find that the parents quarrel a lot because he thinks he's right, mommy thinks they're right, and they're both right. And to be honest, if you go and stand from another point of view, you'll probably see that the person is right based on what they're saying. I would have added one of those pictures here. Those pictures we have where you have an old woman or a young old witch or a young woman. They're both right. Or those things
the one of the blind people and the elephants.
Thank you. Or even the ones of the South. There was one dress that came up one time where people thought it was purple. People said it was red. People said, because I wasn't even seeing any, or people were hearing, so that's all that. So some of them were sight and some was hearing. I don't know if you remember, there was one where they say,
I did all those challenges. Some were words. What could you see? Some were color. Some were what could you hear?
It was very frustrating for me. So when people asked me after a while, I wasn't even answering. I was like, I don't want to know, please don't, maybe some form of witchcraft. But the truth is, we're saying that everybody's perspective is valid. It doesn't make it right. I'm not saying that everybody is right. It doesn't make it right, but just think deeply that there must be a reason why they think this thing is their own point of view. We all come from different backgrounds, which is why I said in a family, child A and child B. I was giving the example of saying when we said from when they were born, and I'll share that my first pregnancy was a bit different. I think I wasn't used to having to be stalked, or I just wasn't really very pleasant. And I think my husband and I were in a different country at the time, so it was a lot of shuttling. And I used to be a bit, that's where my mother-in-law used to say things like, what you are going to pass, that was when she used to tell me. And I can tell you that when I had my first son, he's very picky. But with my second pregnancy, I was based in Ghana then. We had our house. I was leaving. Every morning I wake up, I would eat very well. I would drive my child to school. I was always in a good mood. I was surrounded by good people. I was happy. I had fun. And my second child, oh gosh, a ball of happy energy. If that wasn't an experiment, I don't think there's any other thing that would tell me. And it kept ringing in my head. So I always pass this on to people around me who I'm close to. I'm like, please just smile and be happy. Anything you want will make you happy during this period. We want happy children. But perspective will always be different. And I've learned that, when I start wanting to argue, I won't stop it anymore. I'm like, in a room of 10, if I want to argue, somebody is probably going to say what I want to say, because even though we're all different, somebody almost always has another perspective that's close to yours. So we take things, and we need to be careful to understand that when I see something, what I'm seeing is different. You see, what you think is handsome is not what is handsome to me. What I think is bright, why is yellow your favorite color and mine is blue? And sometimes based on how we're stereotyped from when we are young, blue is my favorite color. Please, what was our school color? What was our uniform?
Red.
No,
Queen's College, yes. Oh, no, we're blue-blooded. We're blue-blooded, please.
Good.
Very, very
So
blue.
after the blue, what house was I in? Blue.
Blue. That's true. That's
So
true.
when I
So you
come
were
out
blue all through for 6 years.
in Catholic Church, a lot of the colors we use are blue. Christian mothers,
Yeah.
everything is blue. So a lot of times I
Mhm.
found that I just used to say blue. I don't know why blue was my favorite color, but when I looked at it, I've been surrounded by blue. Even as red, it was bright red and blue. So there's so
Yeah,
much
very
of things
true.
that happen to us around that you don't realize
Very
affect
true.
the way you think. So I said to people that if you want to influence somebody to change their mind, start from where they are, meet them at the point where they are. That's how you communicate the most. If you're going to a battle and you come with guns blazing, you will get guns coming back at you. David went with a stone.
That's such a
He didn't go with,
visual
David went with
statement.
a stone. He didn't even have an army, so nobody saw it coming. Nobody could have believed. And I strongly believe, I tell that to people, when I have, especially this mother-in-law battle, I always tell them, I'm like, how is it possible that somebody who's known somebody longer than you, and then you suddenly, and I always say to
There's
myself,
suffer in that relationship.
as in even you as a person or daddies who love their girls, you've protected them so much. You've given them everything they want. You've already given them an idea of what marriage should be like to them because they've watched you. They want a man they'll say, oh, that's my first hero. So they want somebody most exactly who's like you because that's what you've communicated to them. This is what life should be. And then you see her from the minute she starts dating, you need to explain to her, communicate very well. Not every man is going to be like me. I love you unconditionally because you came, you are my bone of my bones. Like I said, you meet outside doesn't know everything about you yet, doesn't understand everything about you. So they can't treat you the way I treat you. So let them, tell them those things. Don't give them the knight in shining armor. You are a knight in shining armor to her, but you won't be that to any. Even sometimes moms complain about how fathers treat their daughters more than they even treat their wives once the girl is born. So these things are what we communicate to them. And that's what they take in. And if you don't explain to them that this can't always be like this, we can't keep them blind. We need to let them know that it won't be like that. Even for moms, you can't protect your child. I tell you, and I'll use another example. I use mine a lot. My son, my first one, he doesn't like to go into the kitchen, even to warm food, he doesn't like. So we struggle with it. I tell him, I said, no, because I don't want you to grow up thinking that some woman is going to do it for you all the time. I don't want you to be in a place where, oh, if there's nobody there, you find one girl you don't even really like. But women are different from men. So when you start asking somebody to do things for you, the person thinks you like them. So the minute you say, oh, I'm not that interested in you, wahala. So I say to him, you have to learn to do certain things by yourself. I will do it for you, but we quarrel about it. And I'll say, no, I'm not going to do it for you. No, go do it yourself. I can stand with you when you do it, but let's learn to do things in a way that, I want you to be more self-sufficient. Don't rely on mommy all the time because it will become, you are marrying a mommy. No, please. We wonder how this whole sugar daddy is 5:30 p.m. Oh, wow.
And
okay.
in fact, from what you just said now, right, it just occurred to me that sometimes this issue of mother-in-laws and their daughter-in-laws, sometimes it might be the men unknowingly triggering it, because by the time everything you're saying is peppered around what mommy used to say, or your body language is different when mommy is around, naturally the woman will have her armor up. And once you have your armor up, anyway, you're going to talk about body language down, but once your armor is up, no matter what's coming out from your mouth, it's going to always sound different.
Yep. Okay, so let's skip through it. But anyway, when a person feels, usually, like that's why I said the same thing with why. Once you feel that somebody is, coming towards you with a negative connotation or whatever, you're already defensive because you're like, why? So we should remember this person is coming from a certain place. Where are they coming from? What is it that they need? Let's skip to the next one so we move quickly. Let's move on. Okay. I think the next is just the connotation of the things I'm talking about with the model of the world. Please go on.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, so representational systems, I added this on because, like I said, if you look at this, there are different ways that we behave. There are different things that we think, we are all born differently. We have different perspectives. We come from different places. So in terms of using our 5 senses, there's some of them that we use more. I'm saying this because it has helped me know more about people, your children, your spouse. Just take it in. I think we'll send some of these things out so you're able to check it. Some people are more visual.
And in the WhatsApp group, I'm sure we'll extend this conversation.
Okay. So when we say somebody is visual, you see, most of the things they do are based on what they see. Even in marketing, they want to see what the product looks like. So you see, you have a child, and I used this the other day, it was so funny. They talk fast, that's like me. They have upper chest breathing, and they breathe like when something is happening. And you know why I like to know this? People who are visual, if they're trying to tell a lie or something, you catch them quickly. They'll suddenly just start, why are you rushing? You know, even for children, you wonder like, what's going on? You know? And these people are
Parents, are you seeing the hack here? Are you seeing the hack? Superpowers added.
Yeah, you know that this is how you catch them. Once you're, most people, I don't think anyone is fully just has one representational system. So what we say is that there's your lead one, and there's your primary representational system. The primary one is the one that mostly you use, and the lead one is the one that usually will come out first. So probably if you're visual, the first thing you'll do is you look before you do anything, right? But the auditory ones, those people are the ones that are a bit calm. When they're talking to you, even you, if you're you usually you don't want it to be too loud, and you don't want it to be too soft. You just want it to be right. They like music, but they're also sensitive to noise. And I say that because for me, I find it weird because if I love music, but if I'm in a car and I'm confused about something, I can't deal with any sound. I want silence. So it just depends on where it's coming.
My last child is like this. He loves music, but he's sensitive to noise. And he uses very tones when he's speaking.
You see? So now you're
I'm actually taking it all in, and I'm checking, okay, this person is okay, this person.
Yeah. And for the kinesthetic, that's the people who like touch. They're more into like feels. People who probably like to hug a lot. They want to be touched. They want to be very, very important. For the kinesthetic ones, they speak slowly. They are interested in feelings. Those are the kind of people that you don't really get them. They're very emotional. Everything they feel like when you say something like, oh, how do you feel about that? And you probably get the person's attention. You know, the words we use, it's really big. I don't want to go deep into it, but when you go through everything, you can read up more on it after. And for the auditory digital, those are the people that, you know, our nerdishish kind of people talking to themselves. They need to understand. They need to understand why. They are the ones who want to know the why of why things are happening. Like, please explain. Why should I do this?
And that's why you have to be very logical about it. If not, I'm not buying it.
You see, like when you tell them something and then your child is asking you, like, mine, why do I have to do that? Like, what's the whole point of it? Like, what will happen if I did that or if I didn't? So we have those kind of people. These are some of our representational systems. If you so skip.
So can we quickly tell us which ones we can we identify our representational systems in the group? If you've identified yours,
I'd like to see that. Can we just take, can you look at it and look at which one you are? I think there's some more information on the next page about it. But Neoma says
visual. This it might be both. You can, I mean, you don't have to be just one. You might just have a primary one and then the other one. It's very heavy in your heart, Abby. Mr. Album, I see why we gel. Because we've been having a lot of side chats and I see why we gel now.
Yeah, you see. Auditory digital, yes. And there's a lot of times you'll find, but like you see that probably like with the visual ones, you might not be so like, okay, visual, but you like the way you look. So before you talk to somebody, you want to see how they look before you even give them time of day. When they come towards you, it doesn't look like, you know, does it look nice or is Joma says she's auditory. That's our preferred representational system. So we have a preferred one, that's your primary one, and then you have a auditory kinesthetic. I like that. So you've mixed both.
So yeah, exactly. I was going to say, Dr. Juliet, I think maybe you're primarily kinesthetic and then auditory, because she initially put auditory, and she said now she thinks about it, she's kinesthetic. So perhaps you might have a bit of both. But one thing I'm seeing from all of this, because me, as you're telling me all this, I'm just saying, okay, so this is halfway to be getting this child to do this thing. Okay, this one I'll ask, how do you feel about this? This one I'll just need the visual perspective.
Yeah, like
so you see, we're doing some parenting hacks here. I mean, really the impact of this. If you want to get some of your visual children to do certain things, you will first bring one very big visual attractor. You know, they'll be focusing on that thing and then you'll be telling them what they want. And when you want to catch them in their line, you'll be looking at their chest, you keep going fast.
Because even when you say things like in our speech, there are certain words you use. Like if you're talking to somebody who is visual, say, oh, I see what you mean. And the person understands you more. But if I was talking to somebody who is more auditory, I'll say, oh, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. So the language we use also attracts them more. Like the same thing you're trying to say, but instead of saying I see you, because you tell somebody who's auditory, I see what you're saying. Person is not really getting you, like they don't trust you. But when you say, oh, I hear you, I hear what you're saying, that sounds like a plan. You know, let's do that. That sounds like a plan.
The student is saying, so how can we use this to communicate better? Do we take this for after the question and answer session, or do we just take it as part of what you're discussing?
Yes, I think we can do it because it's a lot. So for us to delve into it, we'll probably later give people so we can cover the rest.
So Dr. Jules, it'll be in question and answer. We will, explore that. So just so that we can get through all the materials fully. But I promise you, if you're already in the WhatsApp group, we're going to have extended conversations. I mean, if you were there last week, you will know that the group was buzzing and buzzing and buzzing, you know. Chiamaka, could you put the link for the WhatsApp group so that those who aren't there already can join in? Efe, are you ready to move?
Yes, I am. Go ahead.
Okay, so now bringing it all to the house.
So effective communication in the home. Let's go. So I think a lot of the things you said have already sort of like come together to say, how do we effectively communicate with each other in the home? Some of the things I was trying to teach was that if you know your child's preferred representational system and their love languages. So now we're going to come here and ask me what are their love languages. I think it's almost much the same like what we've heard about, if we've ever read about love languages. I actually have a book that I bought a while ago, 5 Love Languages of Children. And I can't even remember it all deeply, but a lot of it comes from there. It's Gary Chapman.
Yes. Words of affirmation, gift giving,
acts of service.
Acts of service and touch.
Physical touch. Yes.
Yes, physical touch. So those are the love languages. So if you identify your children's love languages and you know their representational system, guess what? You have become a communication guru. You know how to catch them.
Right. Yeah.
Quality time, yes, quality time too.
And the thing is, I don't think you have just one, and I think you can teach your children each because you give them as well. So like we're saying, be fully present. I noticed something a while ago, like when my kids were younger and I was talking to them and I was doing something on my phone and they say, oh, mama, put your phone away. Because it's like, they feel like you are sharing their attention, like you're not really paying attention. And we do that without even knowing. It might be work. It might not even, because a lot of times I'm like, oh, I'm doing something or I'm responding to somebody. But even every single relationship, like wherever you are, I've noticed, like when we go out with friends or whoever, put your phone away and see how much more appreciated the person feels. Because of the way we are, it's like, so the same thing we're saying about, having this whole digital thing. I tell my children, I'm like, for one, at the table, thankfully, we don't have any devices. We've been able to keep that up. I used to do it once in a while, but I'm like, no matter how stressed I am, put it away. And when you're talking to somebody, that talk might not even be up to 20 minutes. So giving them that 20 minutes with undivided attention is so important. Same with your husband.
Quality over quantity.
Anyone. Yes. If I want to give you that 10 minutes of attention, just let me just say, okay, I'm here. I'll put it away for that time. Even when we go for events at school or your child is doing something, half of the time you are like this. You are there, but you're probably working on something. So when you put that phone, turn it off or put it away. In fact, I think turning it off is better, Then you learn.
For people like us, that turn it off go hard, but my phone doesn't, my notifications are not on. It's mostly, there's no vibration. So basically, once I put my phone face down, it's almost as if it's off.
I agree.
Nothing
but the thing about it is that
coming, but nothing rings out.
If it even has to be on, and you let them know why it's on sometimes, like when you're having that conversation and you're like, you know what, I'm expecting something, or there might be an emergency. I think the thing is, it's difficult having to explain everything all the time, but we need to learn to do that so the person understands. It's the understanding that's important, right? When I said schedule time and be consistent with it, I think it was somewhere about praying and having the same time. When you do things with kids, especially as a family, and you keep that time, they learn it and it's something that sticks with them. It almost becomes very anal. Like even when you grow up, you know that at a certain time, this thing has to be done. and we do it together as a family. So even when they grow up and you feel like they will forget you, sometimes they will come home for that one thing. Have fun with your family as a family. Let's do that. Sometimes just be silly, just dance together, do whatever it is. I admire, especially with the Europeans, the ones that have that time. You see them outside looking for a stone. I once found a Facebook group where you find a rock and then they hide the rock somewhere and then somebody else goes to find it. But this is what we're saying about being more out. This is a whole group. And this was when I was in Singapore. A whole group. When my friend told me to join, I was like, this woman, are you okay? I should go and be finding stone and I'll hide it. I said, so what am I now doing an African movie like the herbalist? I will find a stone and keep it up. But it was a fun art because what it was you find the stone, maybe you paint it or make a design, then you hide it somewhere else, and then you come out and they find it. And it was a whole thing. But be spontaneous.
Niger mommy. Yes, we love ourselves like that. Our limitations, please.
I'm telling you, when it sounds weird, You have to be careful because before they'll tie you to that stone. But then again, I digress. But in all honesty, do things together. Like we are doing a lot of times. I've had people that up to what you can find what it is. It doesn't have to be something great. It doesn't have to be the whole.
It can be as simple as movie night. Sometimes, like once a month or during public holidays, my children, know that we have a tradition. Every Christmas Eve, we do movie night, hot cocoa and marshmallows and popcorn. And then once it's 12 midnight, then we do the fireworks. And then we have the elaborate breakfast for Christmas. And then, of course, we do that for some other. So we do that, so even the movie nights, we just do them randomly. And it's a tradition we have in the home. So it doesn't have to be expensive. Fun doesn't have to be an elaborate affair. Sometimes it's just as simple as sitting down and just having fun. My children love Words. So, how much is Words? Words is 200 naira. You can make a game of Words for hours, So, just stop, have fun.
Fantastic. And then those are the things that people remember because as if you said it, no jokes. I remember when I was small, Christmas I look forward to because we used to watch a movie. Then it was even waiting for the VHS tape. But that's why I liked, I think, Trading Places or Eddie Murphy. It was one of the first things I remember because we used to watch and there was a Christmas scene. So you used to put it, little things, going to Leventis, even with people, just even with their Jollof Wars, it's the card game. Love it.
Yes, I love Jollof Wars. I also like Niger. What's that one? We did that last Christmas. So my in-laws were around, all my in-laws were around, and it was adults versus kids. It was fun. We were there for hours.
There are many Nigerian card games. I need to get some more, please. If you hook me up.
Yes, there are. I will share the link to where you can get it in the WhatsApp group. Okay. Once we get off this, there's on Instagram, there are 1 or 2 pages that are dedicated to Nigerian games, whether board games, card games, and it's fun because it's local to us. So for those of us who are not in the Nigerian environment, I also say, look for things that are local to you because it would make more meaning. It would have more, like for me, I have Monopoly, the one that has Queen's College and the Lagos City, and I have it in mint condition. Like my children know they can't even touch it. And because I can recognize what's going on there. I can recognize what's going on there and it speaks to me. So once in a while, I bring it out and we use it, and that one is special. As opposed to we have our normal Monopoly, they lose the pieces, they find it. That one I don't even care. But the day we're going to play that special Lagos edition, we will prepare. I'll be telling them no dirty hands on it, no this, no that,
I'm telling you.
Extra special. So it's the little things that count.
And then, when you speak to children and you are doing things together, try to explain to them maybe something, when you drop something to it, this is our family tradition. When a child even hears that it's a family tradition, they want to keep up. I say to people that when you get married, another thing you notice is that it's the family who has more of the traditions that they tend to stick towards. If you're coming somewhere and nothing is being done, even with religion and code, you say, oh, I married this person, but they're going to their church because you probably don't have a strong stands in your feet. So how can you teach them? If you're not teaching them, let the person who's going to teach them take them. But you find that, why do people go more to one family than the other, maybe with your in-laws? Because that's the way the fun is. That's where the children enjoy. That's where things happen. So if you are that person,
I really that's where the children enjoy.
It's true. If you tell the children they want to go to certain places, they will, and there's some certain places they want to go to all the time. Why? Because maybe they have fun. Maybe because the grandparents, they are the ones that love them, that will buy things for them. We pick up these things. It's what we're learning about, like we're saying, love languages. If you have one child that really likes getting gifts and he knows that when I get there, we like, even we're saying it that back then, one of the things I think my kids miss about being in Nigeria is that, Nigerian uncles and aunties are very generous. Anywhere you go, they will give you, when you're going, you will get money or you get something. But when you live in a place where you're not familiar with people like that, it's one of the things they miss. I remember being small, there's no auntie or uncle that wouldn't come and give you something. But for some people, it's just being valued. You have those aunties who give you the whole time. Oh, we're going to watch this together. When you come, we'll play this game. And it's very important to have that in your support system because you can't do it all. You're not that mommy. I'm not that mommy that will go and bake a cake. I don't like it. But they have aunties that we're going, you see, the one that will come and say, so I'll be there with you, but you need people who will also support you. It's part of the family. That whole family system isn't just you and your husband and kids. No. And that's what we need to
try. Where's your village?
Because it's very important.
I'm the kind of auntie that will come to your house and I'm the kind of auntie that will come to your house. I know your child likes baking and we go and bake in your kitchen while you're doing something.
There you go.
Because I have an aunt that does that. My mom's only sister lives in Italy. And when she's coming from Italy, guess what she's putting in her bag? She's putting cheese, she's putting special kinds of yeast, all that, because guess what? She might be here for 6 weeks and she will cook at least one, maybe a total of 4 weeks out of the 6 weeks. We make pizza from scratch in my family when she's around, like from scratch, flour, everything. We make different kinds of breads. We make pasta from scratch. So her visits, even my children, they keep asking me, when is Auntie Gillian coming? Because they know that, that her visit, or more, it always leaves a mark in their heart. That's them feeling valued. Because my aunt is in her 60s, but she will bring out her time. Sometimes she said, you want to go shopping with me? She will take them, they will buy all the fresh produce, they would, So let's just all make everyone feel valued.
Oh, when I said ask your children, if I have my mom's I think we're 4 girls, and when I ask my kids to describe every one of us, they know the one they will go to for fun, they know the one they will go to for serious punishment if they are wrong, and they know. So they know this thing. The first day I heard them talking about it, I was like, what? So which one am I? So they'll tell you this is the one that is. So those things are what, they've learned those things by just being around you. So it's important, like we mentioned a while back, about who is in that circle. And that's also what helps them when you are going to pick a family they want to go into. This thing also affects them because they know, do I want to get with this person? Marriage isn't just 2 people. They always say there's a whole lot of other people involved. It should be 2 of you, yes, but you're not an island. So there are other people that would influence how you behave, like it or not. There are other people that will come and they would always have, depending on how close you are to your siblings or whoever, there are always other people that surround you. They're not in it, but they're around them. What surrounds you is around. Yeah. Let's go to the next slide. Be spontaneous. I didn't talk about that one, but I just wanted to share that sometimes being Niger mommy, as Abel has called me, there are certain times that I don't allow my children have certain things. So once in a while, I don't say anything, I'll just surprise them. And when I bring it, they're even shocked. And then it just makes everybody, there's this, ambience in the house all of a sudden. Everybody is happy, everybody's excited. When you want to get the gist, they didn't want to tell you to come out because they're like, you're on my side today. So sometimes just randomly, or you just pick up and say, okay, let's do something we don't do all the time. And do it. Surprises are always good ones anyway. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't like that surprise. Give me something I didn't expect. So active listening, when we're talking about being present, active listening, and generally, we say when we are talking about communication, half of it is your body language. I've been talking since I'm that kind of person who I'm always moving. I don't know how to sit still. As in, I hope I always say to myself, I will embarrass you because once I hear music, just know that there must be. That's me. I think, I say when we were young, they didn't discover all these funny things of ADHD or whatever. Some of us would have very much been in those brackets and those things because me, wherever I am, whatever is happening, once I hear music that I like, sure. So if you look at me, I'm like, don't join me. I'm on my own. Even in church, and everybody's sitting there, Catholic church sometimes, but a song comes on and I stand up. They're like, oh my God, this woman has.
So you're one of those ones that will be making us feel as if we are inadequate. They'll be
Not
dancing,
that.
dancing
But the
unto the
thing is,
Lord. And they'll be wondering, what can you take your kids on for us now?
yeah, in this day and age, just be happy and dance, so move. But
That's
anyway, your whole body system, 55 is really your body language. You know when people are
that's a
happy.
whole lot.
There's nothing that, it's a whole lot. Your words are very small because everything that comes out in your voice is the energy. You see, the tone of voice comes from everything else. Before you talk, like you were saying, I wasn't talking fast, probably because I was thinking, am I making noise in the house? So in my subconscious, I'm trying to speak in a varied tone. But your tone of voice is so important.
This one I'm sending to my children once we are done.
Oh, it's so important. Ask anyone. If you come to somebody and the first thing is, I always say to people, I say to them at home all the time, I'm like, why are you sounding angry? Are you fighting? I've been saying that for a long time. Even with my friends, I'm like, are you fighting? Reduce. I do it sometimes and they actually tell me, like when I call my mom, why are you angry? And I'm like, you actually annoyed me, so I'm angry. But then I try to, that reminds me, for him to tell me means that, and he's even told me, just like they tell you, like he tells me, I don't like it when you shout. Like you can say it to me, but you don't shout. Last week, it was Mother's Day, the other Mother's Day. So we are part of that other Mother's Day, Ghana, America, Singapore. And the priest that day was so funny. He was hilarious because he just called 5 kids randomly and said, please come out and say what you like about your mom. And a lot of them said, so obviously all the moms were excited. Oh, my mommy does this, she does my homework. And then after that, he now said, okay, I want another set of 5 kids to come out. People didn't know. And then he said, tell me what you don't like. Then we were all, and especially the ones who came out, their parents were now scared. And the first one, tiny little girl said, mommies, please stop beating us. Number one. And of course,
in the outside.
The funny thing was the priest had to say, it's not about your mom. Just say what you think generally moms do. But it was, in fact, one actually said, this morning, everybody said, don't embarrass your mother here. Because this morning, they was about to say, because when you ask them, a lot of things you will hear are the same. So when you make mistakes, it's important. I keep on saying it, we're all living the same basic life all over the place. It just depends on what you put in and what you want to come out of it. So when we're talking about it, body language, wherever you go for an interview, or as I said before, we see it happen, maybe it doesn't happen anymore. Your wife waiting for the husband and you are in a combative mood because he has not come back. That is already, that situation is already gone. Because even if he comes in and you're like, why didn't you come back since?
And the thing is, even when he's giving you a logical explanation, because you're already geared for action, you're not hearing it.
You can't hear it. You can't hear it. So that's why I said, ask yourself, what response do you want? If you sit down and think about it, okay, this is why I'm angry, this is what he has done. But what do I want to happen at the end? Do I want him to be remorseful? Do I want him to understand why I'm worried? Do I want him to just get up and whatever? Do I want him to, sometimes we want to fight. There's a spirit that makes people want to fight. There are actually days you actually want to fight. I remember back then, people used to date and I'm like, this guy said, you can't quarrel with somebody because you want to quarrel. You feel that after the quarrel, that making up part of it where they will buy you flowers or buy you a gift or come and say sorry. So people like attention. And that's why we need to go back to learning about our systems and our love languages. Because some people, it's just the attention you want. Anger is not a thing. Anger is fueled by other emotions.
Something.
Yeah, there's other emotions. Some children, when they're,
our children angry, we should know that there's something
behind it. I've discovered one for my child. When you come and you pick up a child from school every time, and the first thing is, how was school? When I see the mood, if my son is hungry, forget it.
That's one of my sons too. Once he's hungry, can't be understanding everything you're saying. It's great.
So what I've done is I've tried to let him know that you realize this happens when you're hungry. So please try and eat so we don't get to this stage. I've told him, I'm like, and he's very picky with eating, so it's now a problem. So when we go to school, even if he takes money, he won't eat because there's nothing. So you come back and then you're bringing it to us. I'm like, please. And I just say, can you please
keep your hunger somewhere else?
Regulate your emotions, please. Regulate your emotions. And I say that quite often to them in my house. I'm like, can you regulate your emotions? Because really, it's not about you or anyone else. It's the situation. And possibly maybe you didn't really have a time to eat. And I had somebody I worked with a long time ago who used to say that. She'll tell you, if I'm hungry and I act anyhow, know that it's because I'm hungry. I can't do well when I'm hungry. So she's let us know. And the other thing,
if I've not had my morning tea Anything you're saying, I cannot take responsibility for it. Sorry.
Yes, regulate your emotions. I always say that because even with us, sometimes you find that you're angry, might be something else somebody did to you, but more than often, you can only point out on the people that are closest to you.
Yeah.
We never put it on outsiders. It's always on the people. So people outside see you as this amazing human, but the people in your house bear the brunt. We
They're
bring
the
it
ones
in
that bear the brunt.
because they're the ones who will take it.
And then even all the things you are holding back from the outsiders because you want to be good, you pour it at home.
You want to shine out there and let people like
partners.
Yeah. When people tell me that, a lot of people say, I've never seen you angry, I've never seen you. I said, go and ask the people in my house. I always tell them, I said, go and ask, first of all, ask my siblings, because growing up, I think they saw it. But to be honest, I don't think people really know. They're like, why are you always smiling? That one is just the gift of God. I think it's my mouth. But this all lack of it there, because self-awareness, I know that I have no lips. So nobody can tell me certain things about my body and I'll be angry. If you tell me your head is big, I say it's okay, I've known since. And that helps me not to be angry. So you can't even make me angry by it. Anyway, generally, I know that it's the people closest to us who, take it in. So we have to be careful. So we try, regulate your emotions, find out what it is, and make it feel better. And in terms of active listening, even when you want to talk to your children, when you want to talk to somebody, mind the way you're doing it, because what they're seeing, sometimes they're not even hearing you, but the actions you're bringing out is what they're seeing, and that's what they're taking in. You can be telling a child, I love you, but you're just like, yes, I love you. So that child begins to associate that with, yes, okay, mom is just saying it because she wants something from me, but she doesn't really care, or something like that. So whatever we do, put it all together, because that's what comes out and that's what people take. Sometimes you can tell somebody's rude or somebody doesn't care just by the way they approach you. You can even tell when you're coming. Or people who look at you, like we said, visually, they just see you. Maybe you're not dressed nicely that day, therefore they've assumed that you're not anybody. Or they just look at your, this one doesn't, And then eventually when you start talking to them, then they realize that, okay, this is not really how the person is. So our body language is the most important thing we have, and we should use it very intentionally, purposefully, So I think we're almost done. Let's go to the next one. I think there's a few.
I think we've covered this.
Okay. But there's still, okay, we've covered it.
Yes, and then there's this one.
Okay. So yeah, make good eye contact here. So for active listening, really, like we've said, be there, make eye contact, use both non-verbal cues and notice them. A lot of times people will sit in front of you, and as they say, people will always show you who they are. We're the ones who don't accept it.
Very true. Very, very true.
Open-ended questions. When you want to have a conversation, it's called networking. We are learning it. So do it at home. When you want to ask your child something, like I said, don't just go, why did you do that? Maybe you just start and say, oh, what do you think would happen if this was the situation? Or what would you have thought would happen if, I think there's some example on the next page. But encourage more responses. It's the questions you ask. Ask intelligent questions. I tell people, go and find out what's an intelligent question. Ask intelligent questions. Some questions, when you hear them, you don't even know where to start from. What's this person saying? Why are they saying it? But when you look at it, reframe. Take that question, look at how many other ways you can bring it out, and then do that.
And ask questions that your children can really answer. Sometimes the questions we're asking are just expressions of our emotions, our own emotions, not necessarily because we imagine that the children can give us logical answers to those questions. Yeah. So I'm sorry, Effie. Okay. Hello, Effie. Are you here?
Oh, sorry. Breaking transmission. Okay, I'm here.
No, so fine.
Paraphrasing as well, like mirroring and matching is another thing we say. So when you're talking to somebody and you realize how they are, if you can just try and level with them. When you mirror what they're saying, you're not doing the parrot thing where your child, some children still do that. When you say something and they repeat it exactly till they annoy you, they keep on saying it. Whatever I said, they'll keep on saying it till, But reflecting back what has been said is important for them to know that you are understanding. Sometimes you even say, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, do you get where I'm coming from? What do you think I'm trying to explain to you? What are you really trying to say? Clarity is important, because in communication, if you're not clear, nothing. Listening to understand rather than, I think as a Nigerian, this one is number one. We don't listen to understand. Before it's even finished, you are responding. I found that so common among Nigerians. You know how they say we answer with a question. Somebody comes to you and say, Ife, what is happening at the Godly Parenting Summit? Oh, why? Why
What did you hear is happening?
What did you hear? You understand? Like, we just do that. So when people try to understand, there might be a reason to the question. And that a lot of times puts people off. They will just bear off what they were originally trying to say, you know? And withholding judgment and advice. Having a judgment-free zone is very important. And the earlier our family learned that, we're very judgmental. What brings with that, even when you are wrong, because you are judgmental, it's hard for you to apologize.
Yeah.
Because you've assumed that, you know, I'm the one that knows all and I'm the be-all. So when they're telling you it's difficult, so holding judgment, I always tell people sometimes when I go to talk to them, I'm like, no judgment. Let's just talk about it. Let's not even just see, you know, where is the problem? I mean, solution-driven. If you're solution-driven, you're not focused on the problem. You're focused on how we'll get through. And that is there for people to know you have their back. I want my children and my husband to know that regardless of it, even if I don't agree with you, I want to have your back and I want you to know that. So it's not about judging. I'll come and say, hey, but I told you. But know that you can tell me and you know that I will fight that fight for you. I always told my children from day one, I'm that mom. So tell me, sometimes they'll say, Mama, I'm going to tell you, but I don't want you to do anything because this is the reaction. If you do it, it'll be like, you know, Mommy's fighting my battle. But they know. I will go on the school. I will go there and go and ask, who is that person that is worrying them? But as they get older, I can't keep doing that. For every age, there's a reaction and there's a way you behave. So we need to learn at every age where to let go little by little, but just think that you embedded the right thing into them for them to be independent enough. It's tough, but you have to. So
what about, okay, someone has a question. We'll take the questions in the question and answer session, but the question has been noted.
Okay.
Okay, so next slide. It's coming.
Okay.
Okay, so the conversation around active listening.
Okay. So I even want us to see that there's the representational systems in this conversation. It was very interesting when I looked at it because I'm sorry to dump this on you. I had a fight with my sister and we haven't spoken since. I'm upset and I don't know who to talk to. This is a deeply emotional.
So let's take Jody. No problem. Tell me more about what happened. That's an open-ended statement. And Lisa,
we were arguing about what to do for our parents' anniversary. I'm still so angry.
Oh, that's tough. You sound upset that you're not speaking because of it. So this is me reflecting what I heard. That's paraphrasing, like Epi mentioned.
Exactly. So it's important because you are still saying the same thing the person has said, but you flip the question around. So she said, yeah, she just makes me so angry. She assumed I would help her plan this elaborate party. I don't have time. It's like she couldn't see things from my perspective at all.
Wow, that's bad. How did it make you feel? You see, you're now giving the person the opportunity to say more.
Frustrated, angry, maybe a bit guilty that she had all these plans and I was the one holding them back. Finally, I told her to do it without me, but that's not right either.
Sounds complicated. I bet you need some time to sort out how you feel about it. No judgment from me because I'm not telling her whether what she's saying is right or wrong. I'm just saying.
Perfect coaching moment, my dear. Yes, I guess I do. Thanks for listening. I just needed to vent. What I love about it, right, is the fact that you literally just allow the person to see the whole situation. Sometimes when you share with the right person, though, when you share, you are able to see it from a different point of view because when you are angry, like we said, probably for her, she doesn't like all this big party of onion purple and sky blue and chocolate
brown.
You understand? You know? So maybe for her, she had thought she wanted something small. Or maybe she doesn't even have the amount of money. There are a lot of things that will fuel your way you think. But I guess when she goes back, if somebody else had come, person can say, what's wrong with your sister? Didn't she even ask? Didn't she? Wahala. You're now fueling the person's feeling, you know, communicating to them that they must be. Listen.
So dear friends, don't be just to be adding to the fuel. To be like
a lot of times, somebody said, pause this slide. My daughter needs to see this. Oh, Dr. Ju.
Yeah, so I'm posting it into the WhatsApp group. So if you've not joined our WhatsApp community, you see the type of things you're missing out on.
So let's go to the next slide.
Okay. Sorry. So the next slide is a video, and
Okay.
we are going to also still mimic what active listening looks like, but this time you're going to hear a conversation. So tell me when you guys can see the video in just 1 minute. Yeah, and please just send a message so that we know everyone has finished, or at least most people have. And yes, we'll share the link in our WhatsApp group. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's done. It's done.
Okay, done. Great. You guys love that video. See, we like to do practical in this class.
Okay. So are we on to the next?
Yeah.
I think this is about the end of it. I think we've done. I thought that.
Yeah, that's the last. This is the last one.
Okay,
The last
fantastic.
slide.
So yes, 10 ways to improve communication. Let's have a meal together. I think it's always important to have at least one meal a day as a family if you can manage it. It might be breakfast, it might be lunch, it might be dinner. I know a lot of time you think about dinner, but depending on how late you come back, sometimes breakfast might even be the one that works for most people. And if you can't do it during the week, maybe on the weekend. I know weekend too, there's always something happening. I trust our people, if you're in a place like Nigeria especially, there's always something happening or the other, but let's just try. And it's the kind of thing we speak about, starting a tradition, schedule family time. There should be time for you together as a family, whatever it is, even if it's only once, twice a year, but find some time, do things together. The simplest of things, even as they're saying is homework, is this, or you do it together. Find something that you guys can enjoy. Take a walk, watch a show, play a game, something. Address the problem, not the person. I think this is very important. Like we said, remember that there is something happening. It's not the person's fault. There's another thing we say, which is that every single person is doing the best they can at that time with what they have in terms of resources. Every single person is doing the best they can. Do you know that everybody, even let's say somebody who has a bad habit, that habit means something to them and they probably think it's a positive thing. It's why we speak about mindset change. So sometimes you don't even realize that there's a reason, which is why they say ask. People do things because it's something that they feel is going to do something. They do it for I don't think anybody really does it for a negative reason. Even the bad things people do, there's a good reason for them. If somebody is mising their food or they don't want to give you, there's a good reason. Probably because to them, they think they will never have enough or they think they don't want to share. So leverage technology to connect. Now it's even easier. It was the greatest thing when we realized that when you're having parties now, you don't have to be there physically, but at least you can feel like you are taking part and seeing. It gives actually a very good vibe. Even though you're not there. If you want to be, you're happy to just see the people as it's happening real time. At least you don't feel like you're out. You're not there, but they can even talk to you. You can even be there. You can send messages. Some of the best things that came out of COVID.
You can do homework. Some of us spent a lot of hours doing homework on Skype.
In fact, when I was working in the bank, I remember my friend, she had to go home late and her toddler should never get home. She used to call him to sing to him to go to bed. At least he will hear her voice before he goes to bed. Just simple things that you don't even think about, Active listening. Let's put all our whole mind, body, and everything into the way we listen. And when you watch people, you learn so much. There's a game people do that they think you're a crazy person, but if you sit down in a mall or any public area, and you actually watch people as they go by and watch what they're doing and their mannerisms, you can even form a story around people watching. And sometimes they're like, okay, maybe this person is this. You will form stories that don't even exist. You could have given somebody husband by force or, it's just weird, but that's how you learn more about people. I think when we watch people, you actually tend to learn a lot more from their mannerisms. Maximize car time. Or spending 2 hours in traffic or 4 hours every day is the most. A lot of my conversations with my people in Nigeria are always in the car. I know where they are. I can even tell what. By. So make it fun. As in, I'll tell you, we used to do with the kids, which was funny. Is my son loves it. He used to say we should do. I think I put that in one of the chats. We do like a game, like we just go by and do the same I Spy. It's the funniest of games where like, "Hi, what do you see? What is that?" You all guess. It just makes it fun sometimes. That's what I was saying about devices, or we do buzz, which is learning multiplication really, because you do it in numbers, you know, and it's always fun. One-on-one time, if you can manage it, it's weird where it might just be the time that somebody has a sporting event, you have to go with them alone, or they're going somewhere random, or you say, "Oh, come with me, let's go." Find what they like. Some children like going shopping, some don't. Instead of forcing everybody to go, take the person who enjoys it and make that your time. The person will appreciate it for you. Like, this is the time you give. Or you find the one that likes to do makeup, and when you're going to do something, that's for a girl. Or for the people who even like sports, sit down together and watch football with, I was saying. Not everybody likes the same thing, you know, but try. And then invest your time. Like I said, invest your time in your family. You are investing in your future. The same way some people are investing in the career, you too, you're investing in your future. So, you know, let's try and make it happen. There was also something I wanted to leave with. It's something I teach. It's an acronym for speak, which I always say that before you say something, I'll post this one in the group, you know, is S stands for smile when you talk. P, make it playful. E is the energy and passion you bring into it. A, amplify. Today, I heard people saying they couldn't hear me. Speak with clarity and let people hear what is being said. And K, be authentic in it as well. Know who you are. So remember that when you're speaking, networking, even at home, what you are doing, when you want to say something, try and put this inside and see the difference it might make. And the quote I'll leave you with is that your smile is your logo. Your personality is your business card. And how you leave others feeling after an experience with you becomes your trademark. So thank you for this time spent with everyone here today. I know we're going to have questions and answers, but just for giving me this time to share with you, I'm grateful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Effie. Guys, can we show her some love in the WhatsApp group? Is she excellent or what? Yay. Thank you, Effie. Thank you, Effie. You did justice to this. You really did justice to this. Thank you so much. Because we're going far above time, we have 2 questions here. If there are questions, please just put them down so that we can pick them up. We will extend this till about 6:30, so about 20-30 minutes. And then any questions after that, we will take it into the WhatsApp group for extended conversations. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for showing all the love. We really appreciate you guys. We really appreciate you guys.